goody. Okay, good. So we're all on the same station here. In the fourth edition, on page 355 from the story It Might Have Been Worse, I was reading, and I think this is pretty informational. From the start, I liked everything about the AA program. I liked the description of the alcoholic as a person who has found that alcohol is interfering with his social or business life. The allergy idea I could understand because I am allergic to certain pollens. Some of my family are allergic to certain foods. What could be more reasonable than some people, including myself, than that some people, including myself, were allergic to alcohol? The explanation that alcoholism was a disease of a twofold nature, an allergy of the body and an obsession of the mind, cleared up a number of puzzling questions for me. The allergy we could do nothing about. Somehow our bodies had reached the point where we could no longer absorb alcohol in our systems. The why is not important. The fact is that one drink will set up a reaction in our system that requires more. That one drink is too much, and 100 drinks are not enough. The obsession of the mind was a little harder to understand, and yet everyone has obsessions of various kinds. The alcoholic has them to an exaggerated degree. Over a period of time, he has built up self-pity and resentments towards anyone or anything that interferes with his drinking. Dishonest thinking, prejudice, ego, antagonism towards anyone and everyone who dares to cross him, vanity, and a critical attitude are character defects that gradually creep in and become a part of his life. Living with fear and tension inevitably results in wanting to ease that tension, which alcohol seems to do temporarily. It took me some time to realize that the 12 steps of AA were designed to help correct these defects of character and so help remove the obsession to drink. The 12 steps, which to me are a spiritual way of living, soon meant honest thinking, not wishful thinking, open-mindedness, a willingness to try, and a faith to accept. They meant patience, tolerance, and humility, and above all, the belief that a power greater than myself could help. That power I choose to call God. How's that, Paul?
That's all? All right.
Yeah.
That that's a short
It's I know. Amazing, huh?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Mickey. Yeah, great. First of all, let's see. The idea of I would never put the allergy before the mental obsession. I would put the mental obsession as the first, where the problem resides is in the mind, and then the allergy. that confuses us even more, because obviously if you were allergic to peanuts, you'd probably not eat peanuts. Yeah. But we're allergic to, let's say you want to call it alcohol, but we keep drinking alcohol. So it's not the allergy, it's the obsession with mind. Yeah, my feeling. So I would put that as primary before the allergy. I don't believe a lot of these qualities she says are going to come back. I don't think many of us were exhibiting them that much before we crossed the line. I feel like most of us started out in some way or form to be obsessed with self to a degree where before I ever drank, I couldn't put myself in other people's shoes. I just thought I had absolutely no effect on anyone because wasn't worth anything. So this was way before the drinking and the stuff happened. So I see this in a different way than this lady did, which is the beauty of recovery. Yeah. The recovery is the point, and then how you see it could be, if it helps other people, that's great. And if it helped you, that's great. So I like to get to the exact nature of it. I do believe there is an addiction before the addictions start appearing in our lives. And that addiction goes unnoticed, which is the head, whatever that is up there, is addicted to this idea of being me. Yeah. And it can see a lot of people who share the same problem, but will stubbornly believe I don't, even though it is the same problem. I will see it as unique and special. See, so I feel this disease, the disease of all diseases, is this obsession with self. And I don't know if I was obsessed with tons of other shit. I was obsessed with self, basically. And then that led me to getting obsessed over what the temporary relief I would get from that. But I didn't have time to be obsessed about much else. It was mostly the planet Paul that was the only significant sphere moving in my mental skies, so to speak. Yeah. So, yeah. And yet me and this lady could sit right next to each other in recovery. Yeah. So that's the point. But I would, over the years, I feel there's a great importance to get to the root of things. And maybe I have an extremeness in me that when that became obvious, the root of the problem in this view was this obsession with self. I didn't move from there really, because I saw if you don't see that, you're going to be looking from its effects most of your life, unbeknownst to us, literally. And so it hides in plain sight because we're entranced with an act of being identified as it. So we start taking its conditions as our conditions. Yeah, and its proclamations at our proclamations. And when it says it hates that person, we believe we hate that person. And I just feel there is a gap or a pause between us and that which we're identified as. Yeah. Now that gap seems to have been closed with the act of being identified, that obsession, that ideation, but it's still there. Yeah. And so at first we need something to get between me and me, which was the program of recovery. Yeah. And so first that role had to be done by institutions when I was younger, because left to my own devices, I always had to be led by other people, by my own managing my life, which wasn't me managing it. Obviously, it was something else I call self. In the managing of my life by self, it always led me to having to be managed by other people. So I experienced relief somewhat from this bondage of self when I was incarcerated or in a 2-year program. Yeah. but it was only a conditional pause or a conditional freedom, like a ceasefire that could be changed at any moment. And it did. When I would leave that institutional setting, I was a ripe target to be taken over again, and therefore I did. Yeah, and so a lot of us learned the hard way. And after being in a program for 2 years and really not liking how they ran it and what happened and everything, but having to begrudgingly admit that my life looked better with them running it than with me running it. And basically, they were very clear who they were dealing with. They were not dealing with Paul. They were dealing with an addict and an alcoholic. And with that unswerving view of my condition, it was the best way to look at me, because I took offense as the idea of Paul. Paul doesn't think he should have to do this or do that, but they were very clear that I was an addict alcoholic. Yeah, that was the dominant representation, not me. Me was just a figurehead. And so this led me to see that the exact nature of the wrong I feel in the terms of recovery is presented on page 64. And that is being convinced self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. We will now look at its common manifestations. And then the next paragraph is resentment. Yet every time I was told about doing an inventory, I was told to look at my resentments. So this ignorance of the exact nature of the wrong was passed on in the program of recovery, humbly. That's what I felt. And just looking at what it says, I have a certain level of English comprehension, and it sort of sounds like self is something other than us. Yeah. And it's that which has defeated us, not us. It's humbly. That's just how I can't see it any other way. When people tell me self and us are synonymous, I don't believe so. It would have been, that's not the English that I learned. Us sounds like a collective, and self sounds like a singularity. Yeah. Now, how could the collective be defeated by a singularity? That's the interesting thing. Yeah. So isn't the problem resides in the mind? So let's just call it the self-centered system. And when we're saddled with that self-centered system, which is a very jealous system, it doesn't want to have you see any other possibility but listening to life from it. Yeah. That self-centered system, any life run on that self-centered system or on self-will is hardly going to be a success. Yeah. That is a clear description of something took us over and is directing our life. And we're reaping the rewards and the punishments from that direction. Yeah. Now, how can that direction stay in power when it's not a clear, orderly direction? It brings a lot of fucking terrible shit. Yeah. Well, the parasite has an incredible strategy. It convinces the host that it's the it's the host. Yeah. So we're thinking we're listening to us, but we're listening to self. Yeah. This is my humble offering. It works for me. It works for me. It has been working for me ever since I saw self as something foreign to me. And I don't even like the word self, actually, because it gives it too much credit. I think it's a mental act called selfing. Yeah. So the head and its reliance on memories and the interpretation of perceptions is in the act of being identified as a self. It's called selfing. And if you're listening to that radio station, you're probably dressing like it tells you you should dress and buying the products it tells you you should buy. Yeah. So basically, I've been convinced, it hit me very strongly around 7 years in sobriety. And I've been thoroughly convinced of that since. And I've been open to other possibilities. I just haven't heard one. Yeah. So here we are, a member of recovery, sharing something that I think is profoundly important in recovery, which is to get the exact nature of the wrong clear. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it'll bring an understanding about a lot of shit that confuses you. It will. Yeah. And maybe blue will appear to be blue and red will be red. You know, some clarity will become the governing principle in your life now, instead of insane advertisings and shit like that. Yeah. Yeah. So, and if people show up, I'll just keep showing up, because I feel, in a sense, it's just a seed assignment that I find myself in. Yeah. I wouldn't have gotten up if other people were sharing it. But when I was involved, you know, in the younger years, in a very enthusiastic fellowship of recovery, San Francisco, I just fucking never heard it. Yeah. And I heard, and I passed on inventory instructions. Yes, you're going to look at your resentments, your fears, and I don't see it that way now. I don't believe they're your resentments. I believe you feel they're yours, because that's the act of being identified as self. When you're in the act of being identified as self, you're going to identify with its manifestations as yours. And there's the evidence. We call resentments mine, fear mine. Yeah. And how are you going to be free from something if you keep aligning yourself with it? It just doesn't work. And then our community saw what happens when that confusion reigns supreme, which is there's going to be a lot of self trying to get out of self. And it says that's an impossibility. That was an observational revelation. It came from members in recovery doing exactly that. They thought they were getting out of self. And then there was a realization it was self trying to get out of self, which points to the exact nature of the wrong, which is an act of being identified as something that you're not. I mean, I can't see, there's a very clear direction to it's the symptoms and the cause. I mean, it's a perfect recognition. It's not like the symptoms and then some wild fucking metaphysical idea. No, you can see the effects and bring it to the cause. Yeah, and the program gave us a lot of hints. The problem resides in the mind. Yes. Yeah. All right. What do we call mind? The thinking or activity. Yes. So we run into what? Alcoholic thoughts. Yeah, addictive thoughts. We've actually, through the punishment of this fucking tyranny, we've actually come to some understandings that a lot of the thoughts that are playing in my head are alcoholic thoughts. Yeah, coming from something other than me. So I'm picking up broadcasts which doesn't have me as the hierarchy of value. Yeah. I'm seen as a form of transportation for this fucking thing to express itself through. And then we get left holding the bags in prison and everywhere else. Yeah. And then you go to rehabs and the self doesn't get fucking addressed. It's there with you, but you're going to all the fucking meetings. You're doing everything and no one's fucking pointing out the self in a sense. Maybe they are now. I hope so. Yeah. Yeah. See, there's that foreign passenger, that alien passenger that goes seemingly with you wherever you go. So now it's telling you when you're in rehab, obviously, you don't need to be in rehab. And it does all this shit. Yes, I mean, why do people who love to take inventory of others have an incredible time taking inventory of themselves? Don't you think that's unusual? And if you got promised at the end of the process, some motherfucker is going to listen to you for 4 to 7 hours, it sounds like, wow, man, it sounds like a holiday for Narcissus, you can have someone else stare at the image of the pond with you, yeah, for 7 hours. And yet, no, it takes months to finally do an inventory. What? Because something doesn't want you to see it. And if you look at your role in things, you're going to see its role in things, because its role in things is a major player in your role of things. It is. This is, I humbly believe now, if you think I'm completely wrong, it doesn't fucking matter. This is an invitation. As long as it gets through the mail slot, I've done my job. What you do with it, you can throw it out. It doesn't fucking matter. My job is just to put it out there. That's the seed assignment. My job is not to find success in outcomes. It's not. I have no interest. I don't care. I just put it out there. There you go. I feel like everyone should have the right to hear it. Whatever they do with it is not up to me. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. I've been pounding away at it now for a long fucking time. And yet every day is fresh. It is. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So that's what we're offering. So all this other stuff is great. There's so much great stuff. This is not changing the steps. It's bringing a different view to the steps. Yeah. I think it's a view that was totally offered in page 64. If that doesn't sound like an instruction for an inventory, which is it starts with the condition the one who's going to do the inventory needs to be in, being convinced of what? Self. Being convinced self, what? Manifested in various ways is what has defeated us, okay? Before you do the inventory, you got to be convinced of that. Very cool. Hopefully with a meager understanding, us and self are different. Self is the defeater, the us is the defeated. Yes? Very clear. Yeah. You are not it's like when people say they hate themselves, they're mistaken. Something hates you. It's not you. It isn't. But in the act of identification, we think it's me hating me, which is insane. Yeah. There's very little animals who are but being driven by instinctual drives that hate themselves. They're out there just getting some food, hopefully fornicate to reproduce and shit like that, and fucking find a place to lay down, and they're into comfort, I mean, you ever watch cats and dogs? They pick out the best beds. They're fucking chilled out. Yeah. I mean, shit. Yeah. I don't see my dog hating itself. I just don't. It doesn't come up to me. I hate myself. It just doesn't. Nor does the cat. Sometimes I may think the cat hates me, but it doesn't hate itself. Where does this crazy ideas come from? Only through the act of being identified as self. How could you? When the host takes itself when the host identifies with the characteristics of the parasite, you're gone. Yeah, you're in an advanced stage of something. Yes, where there's no line between what are your manifestations and the parasite's manifestations. And the host its nature is completely different than the parasitical nature. To have that all mixed up is a powerful concoction. It is. Yeah. To come to terms with the way you are as an adult that had no semblance of what you were like when you were growing up. And to have and to think there's a continuity to that you've been Paul this whole time. No, Paul got taken over by something. And it's going by the name of Paul. Yeah? And it's not Paul. Paul's lost somewhere. Yeah. Obviously is, because it's calling something that it's not it. Yeah. So, yeah. So sounds like a beautiful instruction of an inventory, very clear, the requirement, being convinced, the target self, how it has defeated us by its manifestations. We are now going to look at some of its common manifestations so that we can recognize self through its manifestations and hopefully call it not me. I feel there's the instruction of the fourth step. You can do it that way. Very clear. Yeah. And then see what happens. And then maybe a life that's full of resentment, at least they won't be yours. Yeah. Because you can see a resentment in the wild doesn't have a long life. Yeah. But when it becomes your resentment and you're feeding it and giving it a lot of attention, and it's the cause of your life, all the grievances are involved in that. That resentment can live as long as you can, 60 fucking years. Isn't that insane? That parasite can just glom on you for 60 years. Ride you in recovery, ride you in everything. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's an important point to try to get across. I feel it's such an important to get across is basically my life's dedication, so to speak. Yeah, which isn't difficult. It's just here, and I'm not saying a damn thing. My ass just has to be here. That's all I need to do. Something does the rest. It's pretty easy. Yeah. In the life of self, it has these big holes where it does nothing, like coming to these talks 5 times a week, and then it gets back into its agenda afterwards, So I'm happy you're here for the ride. I hope there's that loving presence, no matter what you believe or don't believe, coming through, even through this paraphernalia of technology, Zoom. And, what you and I may not be able to understand, we can. Yes. So, yeah, there we go. So beautiful reading. I just don't, to me, if I saw the root of the problem, I would give up being a landscaping changing the effects like the leaves and shit. I'd go right to becoming a root doctor, just the way it's my head. That's just how it works. Yeah. I mean, what's the first thing? Because it has a huge influence on everything else. Yeah. I much rather get clear about that and have faith that the other shit will clear itself up when this gets clear. Yeah. And I still have that same view. Yeah. I don't see the point of manicuring like a mutated fucking tree. I much rather get to the root and see what's going on. Yeah. Which is the exact nature of the wrong. Yeah. So how could we have known that we were excessively obsessed over this idea of self? I mean, obviously it was brewing way before we were introduced to drinking and shit. Yeah, that's probably, for me, drinking was a solution to its effects. Yeah. I mean, I drank to get relief from this thing. Yeah. So it was on a very obsessive nature to begin with, since about 5 or 6. Yeah. So yeah, I think the exact nature of the wrong doesn't just spring up drinking, and obviously doesn't stop when you stop drinking. Yeah. 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 So thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, thank you. For me, I had to get sober. I had to get clean before I could realize the root of the problem, before I could even comprehend what we're truly dealing with. I had to go through the given program mechanically. I had to read the words before I could hear the message.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this is one of the sticky points. So if this was an ideal world where you could close off the gathering of information and then just have some kind of, you can't hear this message until you're 10 years sober or shit like that, it would be great probably. And then it would have its unintended consequences. Yeah. So yeah, I always understand when people would get upset with me because they think this could mislead a person. Well, basically everything can. Everything has 2 possibilities. It can be a medicine or a fucking poison. I mean, that's the way it is here. So I would have loved it. Yes. Like in the old historical idea of non-duality, non-duality would be presented way later after the person was disillusioned by all its attempts to arrive at where it already was. Yeah. So they were primed to hear the message. Now, someone 11 years old who's looking for porn can fall into a non-duality site and hear of non-duality. Yeah. 12. It's just the information is dangling everywhere. There's so much knowledge. There's nothing. No one's getting the knowledge. Yeah. It's just like a fucking avalanche of information. And, you know, our ears may not be ready to hear that. Yeah. So this is the case. So, yeah, I would say do what you need to do that mechanical way. But because when I was doing a lot of talking around other places, there would be a pattern of people hitting around 10 or 12 years or so, and they were starting to think there was something they needed, and they didn't think it was in AA. So they were starting to look outside. We're just trying to bring that shit in. Yeah. So that there's no need to leave AA. Let's just have those books on the shelf. Yeah. Yeah. So,
well, that's my experience. I always knew that there was something more.
yes.
You know, deep in my innermost knew that this was the costume, but I needed to see the actor naked.
Yes, yes, of course. For most people, that's the case. And, you know, like I said, I would love a world where you would have to get a personal invitation to everything. But obviously, it's not that way. Yeah. But see, what I feel, steering everything is a higher power, which is unimaginable what it can do or what it does with everything. And I truly believe, by witnessing other people's lives and my own, it sees value in everything. So the failures or the being misled is going to be very valuable if you just stay with stay on the operating table, don't get up and don't play doctor. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So it's out of my hands. So yes, if it causes harm or if it brings goodness, what are you going to do? Yeah. Yeah, I've wrestled with it because I ran into a lot of fucking resistance in recovery, which I thought this was a gospel. It's good news, and I could see, and I listened to people, but then again,
well, the parasite doesn't want to be identified.
no, that's for sure. Of course not, because why? It's a parasite. There's not a deep reason. It's just that a parasite needs to be clothed in stealthness, yeah, because of its nature. It needs the host.
The facade doesn't want to be recognized as merely a facade.
Of course not. And if that's all you're listening to, it sounds like it's a real facade. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's why I do what you do and then come back and do the inventory with this type of view and see, because like one of the simplest visions of the Course in Miracles, if you've ever heard of it, is lesson 2, where it just describes what's actually happening, which is you and I are giving everything all the meaning it has. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a powerful position to be in. Yes. And if something is masquerading and using that power to give everything all the meaning it wants it to have, that's a pretty that's a situation, so to speak. Yeah. That something is using this powerful source for its own ends. And we're being used that way, and it's a rough ride for us when it does it. Yes. And so the importance of it, to me, outweighs the dangers that could possibly happen. It does. I mean, and also I believe everyone has their own higher power, and how do I know I can only go based on the divine urge to share as a recognition of its validity, so to speak. And I would imagine the quality that I feel it comes from is going to be exhibited in the giving of it. Yeah. The message. Yeah.
Well, you know what I've observed is that the understanding of the activity of selfing can happen, can be recognized no matter what anyone's concept of a higher power is.
Yes, yes, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the point is, it's if you've lived under something, let's say a tyrannical regime or everything, you're the ones who are going to write the books about it. Yes. I mean, you lived under it with the hopes that it may bring someone to the recognition they're living in this case, under the same tyranny. Yeah.
Right.
To start having a little suspicious view of that which was taken to be just me, and this is just the way it is. Yes, I think that's a powerful invitation.
Sure.
When you, yeah, because you will see activities that have finite traits and seem to be exhibiting through a lot of us. Yeah, and like this, the whole idea of the statement of, with all of us thinking we're uniquely different and all this ending up at the same 3 parking spaces, institution, jails of death, that tells a lot to me. That means that makes me feel like there's one driver and we're the fleet of the cars that are being driven. Yes.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's got the perfect takeover, because the radio in the car keeps saying you did it. You're going there. So basically, this can go on and on for quite a while. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. You know, for some people, if there's a heavy enough consequence, they stop, obviously. They realize, they finally get the sense, oh, you know, every time I'm in trouble, I've been drinking. All right. Okay. That's pretty good. Check out. I was not aware of that. And now they're realizing, and that opens up, wait a minute. And then why, even with that incredible recognition, you keep doing it? Yeah. Starts telling you.
Exactly.
Yes. It's an alien force has you. And self-knowledge is not going to avail you anything, because it's something is overriding the knowledge of itself by the claim of being self that knows it. Yeah, it is. It neuters knowledge. Many of us knew we've been fucked for years, yet it didn't cause any getting, you know what I mean? There was no behavioral change, because all the realizations you would think would come from tons of evidence were overridden by the occupation. Yeah, you just keep running into the same wall over and over again. Yeah, just, to me, it all implies there's something going on. Something has taken us over and is using us. Yeah, and to me, to get that message across, let's be flamboyant. Let's look at it as a parasitical nature, so you can have an imagery. And the whole point is just to get the idea that it may not be you. Because I found the freedom is not as self, the freedom is from self.
Right.
And so first you have to see you're not self to have freedom from it. If you don't see you're not self, you're going to constantly keep trying to have freedom as it. Yeah. And that, to me, is another form of bondage. Yes.
That's self trying to get out of self.
Exactly. So, yeah, I just put it out there. It's not me, actually. I've lost interest in this years and years ago. I'm like a mule or a donkey. I'm not going to get a treat. I'm in the habit of going to the trough and, and waiting until it's over get what I want, which may be a bagel or something. Its goals have been they've been, it's not looking for total domination, just like, please take my opinion on the pumpkin pie, you know. All right, yeah. We'll have pumpkin pie. Yeah. Yeah, so that's why.
Oh, David Bitterman had his hand up. David, did you still want to
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah, thank you, Mickey. No, Paul, I just wanted to say I really appreciate the work you've done in putting this message out there. And, in the trip in Dover to see sort of on the ground and working with situations and people either newly or once again in recovery and spreading this message is huge, because at one point in time, I was one of those people who felt a little bit boxed in and enclosed by some of the ideologies and things I was bumping into in my community of recovery. And some of that was an ingredient in the parasitical recipe that sort of led me back out to experience another round. And I recall before then, I had done that thing. I'd tried like leaving AA and going to like the, rash or Buddhist recovery and these other things, and getting into the non-duality and thinking I could supplant it. And I tried all those routes and it availed me nothing. And I remember previously I'd come across your videos and things, and I was like, in a way, because I had left the program, I was like, oh, he reminds me too much of like a guy at AA who's proselytizing this message. And then when I found myself in the position of needing to hear it, I remembered that's exact, you know what I mean? It was the exact what I needed at that moment in time as an intervention, was the message that you're sharing. And I feel like maybe if it was out there a little more, maybe I would have found it before taking, a road trip or going through that. But I know it's been at personal sacrifice to you, it being sort of from the action figure, being ostracized from your local community and things like that, but you've continued to fight to put it out there. So I just wanted to say it means a lot to me. I think I had a better understanding of what, of what your mission was. And just want to thank you, from the bottom of my heart for doing it.
Well, thank you, Dave. And first of all, yeah, there's no sacrifice. I mean, when it says, "Oh, you're willing to go to any lengths," the lengths have been no length. It's very simple.
I know it wasn't, received with open arms.
Was going to any lengths, yeah, at 6 a.m. and shit. So
Yeah.
no, it's been pretty. And the whole point is, it's the message. And the messenger, not the messenger with a message. Yes, it's the message. I have no, I'm all taken care of. Sure. It's just, I just got to bug up my butt about getting clarity. If I saw a lot of demonstrations of happy, joyousness, and free all over it, I wouldn't say anything. I would just, but I still see a lot of suffering. And especially the obvious one that gets under my skin is this being captured by the past, by the idea that you were the doer of the shit that you were compelled to do by alcoholism. That one is fucking old for me. It's that one, to have 40 years of sobriety and still be entertaining that you did these terrible things 41 years ago. That just rubs me wrong. So
that's still the bondage of self, isn't it?
Well, yes, the bondage has a very long arm. It can reach out of the past to 40 years in the future and still hold you, because of the idea of being the doer, and you're the doer no matter what. Yeah, and that's not the case. You were taken over, just like when you're taken over when you get the flu or the virus. Yeah. And then you have to start behaving differently because something is having a say in how your day is, which is the flu. So you do this. Well, this is a very active disease. It likes to use you for transportation. It likes drama. It likes fucking excitement. It likes to be right. It feeds off of these fucking things, and uses you to keep doing the same old fucking same old. And it does the same thing to all these different people who have alcoholism and addiction. Yeah, they all, how many times, how many new alcoholics have you met? They're leading, the chin they're leading with is alcoholism. I've heard it before. It's like oh, my name is Steve. That's completely secondary. It's the occupation of the alcoholism is what's talking. Yeah. Steve is long for it's in this subterranean little dungeon. Yeah. I've met thousands of people, but in a sense, I've only met maybe less than 10 demonstrations of alcoholism. They were all the same old story, it's just insane. And why can we be incredible soothsayers? I can tell someone's future completely. Not because I studied Steve's resume, but he has alcoholism untreated, and I know what's going to fucking happen. It's because that's what happens. Yeah. It's going to be, you're going to have to emphasize all these little things to try not to see the big elephant in the room. And so you'll have a myopic view of this person really fucked with me with this giant elephant of alcoholism looming in you. And you can, it's just, I've met it over and over again. Some of them were family members. I was that. I've watched it, man. So this idea of singularity reigns supreme, I do not believe so. I think we have been taken over by the same fucking thing. Yeah, and it has finite traits, and it always overplays its hand. It always reveals its fucking true intention. It doesn't give a shit about you. We use it. Just look at like when you're at a bar or something and you slip, what gets saved? The drink. Yes. If you're riding your bike, it's only $100 and you go and you start leaning towards the gully, you try to save the fucking bike at the expense of you. Haven't you heard it? When a situation comes, it shows its value system. You're way on the lower end of the totem pole. When I used to surf, you'd run into the rocks, you'd try to save the board, because the board was worth $400. At that moment, you weren't worth $400. You want that to be the director of your life? Check it out. Check it out. Do you save the object or the you? You'll try to save the object. Yes, the object in its hierarchy of value has more value than you. How's your life going? I mean, it's obvious. You don't need tons of examples. A couple will do, because it just does the same fucking thing over and over again. Yeah. It doesn't have infinite traits. It leaves the same marks on everyone it takes over. Yeah. Yeah. So, and you can be free from it. You can have that state that they say is possible. The problem does not exist for you anymore. Bammo. Exactly. The problem does not exist for you anymore. Now, they may have been talking about the incessant drive to drink, and now you're insane about that. But you could use it to the exact problem, which is the occupation of the bondage of self. That cannot exist for you anymore. Yeah. When? Thursday. Yeah. Where? Here. Now, the funny thing is, when you're free from the bondage of self, it won't be being pointed out. You'll just be free from the bondage of self. The self will come in and say, you're free from the bondage of self, and now it will sort of be the end of it. But usually when you lose interest in constantly checking out your own condition all fucking day. You just live. You're living. Yes. You're available and engaged, and then you have times of rest and times of activity and shit. And then there you go. There's no notes have been taken. You've just lived a day. Yeah. There's no conclusion that's met. Yeah. There's no final meaning. It's just living. Yeah. Yeah. It's cool.
That's when you've heard the pop.
The thing is, yeah, the problem does not exist for you anymore. Wow. That's incredible, because especially if knowing how powerful this problem was, to have it not exist for you anymore is a damn good solution. I mean, to me, I don't believe a lot of what we call solutions here are solutions. That's a solution. That is a solution. The problem does not exist for you anymore. To me, that's a valid solution. Yes. Yeah. It's it's not like, oh, this is the solution. Slow killing poison or quick killing poison. They don't sound like solutions to me. But this does. So yeah, it's cool. All right. Any other person sharing?
I don't see any hands, Paul.
All right, good. Well, we'll start saying goodbye. Yeah. First off, Michael Stacy. I always appreciate. Mike, I'm gonna see you next week, eh?
Yep.
Michael is making a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, the holy site.
Yep.
Yes.
Have my room ready.
I'll be great.
Okay.
All right. Kathleen G, nice to see you, honey. Yeah, she's waiting for a new apartment. It's coming soon. Very good. Mickey, as always. Axel, nice to see you. Joseph C. We got Chris B. Wayne. David Bitterman. Yes, David. Nick V. Miak. There's Mia. Every time I see Mia, triggers a sense of great security about my gluten-free biscottis. I still have some. Nice to see you, Mia. Thank you for all your endless generosities. Yeah. Walter, the brother from another mother. Yeah. Sukai Endor. That's beautiful. N capital D capital Endor. Endor. Yeah, it's nice. We got Greg Crow. I don't know who we're talking to, but in a certain sense, it doesn't matter. We got Dana, just enjoying life. She's got a nice smile. Yes. Nina, as always, Nina is going to grace us with her presence also. Wow. Happy days. Tom, nice to see you, Tom. Thanks for holding a space with all of us. We got Roman Mueller, my friend in Germany, a deep friend of mine. I have a great fondness of Roman and Barbara and Vlad and all of us. Jeffrey in Seattle, I don't know if he's delivering eyes anymore. He's delivering ears. Yeah. Jules on vocals. It's nice. Steve C in San Diego. I think I'm going to be seeing Steve C soon live somewhere.
Yeah, at Tom's house.
At Tom's house, yes. Dennis, there you go. Miranda looking as lovely as ever. Yes. She seems to be in the eye of the storm at this moment, calm and restful. Yeah. Suzanne, Suzanne M. We've been with each other for years now, Suzanne. Very nice. Thank you. You're a great company. Brian in Canada, in BC, my probably favorite part of Canada, British Columbia. Ramsgate, Claire E. Ramsgate. Huh. All right, let me see who else. We got Lee in California, Irene, Keith M. Nice to see Keith, Paula, Amy, our friend in Seattle, Fletch, Kentucky Rob, Oliver Berlin, Vegas Al, Stephen T. Thanks everyone for holding the space. A loving presence expressing itself through our group conscience. Not bad. Not bad for a Thursday. Okay, well, I'll be seeing you. If you're interested, on the event page of Zen Bitch Slap, they have all the Zooms and all the scheduling of what's going to happen. Every Zoom doesn't have a password. It's the same Zoom room of all of them. So, yep. Come and join us if you like. There's Cassandra. I missed Cassandra. What am I? Jeffrey in Seattle. I got Jeffrey. All right, great, everyone. Thank you. Have a, Yep.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey.
Thanks, Paul. Have a
Michael.
great day.
Thanks, Paul.